Shanti,
Shanti.
That's it. Om Namah Shivaya. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we will start the 8th verse, right? We have finished 7 verses and we are going to chant the 8th verse. Ahankarasya tadatmyam Ahankarasya tadatmyam
Ahankarasya tadatyam
Chittaya deha sakshibhi Chittaya deha sakshibhi
Chittaya Shibhi
Sahajam karmajam bhranti
Jajam karmajam bhranti
Janyam chaturvidham krama
Janyam
So I'm meeting all of y'all. And now look at the verses, the words. So he's actually doing an analysis, and this analysis is peculiar to this text, Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka, because we don't find this kind of analysis anywhere else. So we saw in the last verse also the ahankara, that is the sukshma shariram plus consciousness. So it's called manadravyam, the matter which is the mind. It is in close proximity to 3 things. What is the first one? The body and the mind, that is sukshma shariram or the ahankara. The body and the ahankara are close together. Physical body are close together, and that is why when we say that sadhana, spiritual sadhana, this mind, it cannot be taken very literally, because if manonasha takes place literally, then the physical body cannot survive, because the physical body needs to borrow consciousness from. And therefore the first learning is that body and mind are in close proximity. What is the next one? The in close proximity to the mind, because it reflects in the mind, right? And thirdly, the sakshi, the original consciousness, is always there, because wherever there is a reflection, the original sun or the original face has to be present before a reflection can take place. So wherever reflected consciousness there, you have to know that original consciousness is also present. So these are 3 the mind is close to. The mind is close to the body, it's close to the reflected consciousness, the Chidabhasa, and it's close to the Sakshi, the original consciousness. Now here Shankara is analyzing, or the author is analyzing, what is the type of relation these 3 pairs of, subject object. So mind and body, mind and reflected consciousness, and mind and original consciousness. The 3 pairs are being taken. So if you don't want to call it mind, you can call it ahankara, or you can call it sukshma shariram. So mind body, mind RC, and mind OC. What is the type of relationship? Now, if you remember, in the first 5 verses, we introduced 3 sets of the rishtas, 3 sets of seers, and 3 sets of drishyams, 3 sets of scenes. So there were 3 subjects and there were 3 objects. In terms of Vedantic thought, we said that the mind has two aspects. One is the Dravya Amsham, the matter part, which remains in the body, and one is the Vritti Amsham, the thought part, which moves out of the body and envelops the object which is under scrutiny, and that is how one knows. So the expanding part of the mind, the mind which expands and moves out, it is called the Vritti Amsha, and this can be referred to as the thought part. Now, the Sakshi, the OC, one must remember the OC reveals not only the Dravya Amsham, but also the Vritti Amsham. The Sakshi reveals both. And therefore, the author introduces one more concept. So he says, Ahankara Mana Dravyam. Mind is associated with three things. Body and mind are close together. Chidabhasa and Sakshi. These are three things. Okay. Now look at the words. Ahankarasya tadatmyam. Ahankara here is the manadravyam manasaha, the manadravyam, the matter part of the mind. And ahankarasya, that matter part of the mind, tadatmyam. Tadatmyam is intimate association. So it has got intimate association with what all? Chit chaya. So chit chaya literally means chit plus chaya. Chaya is the reflection, chit is consciousness, and therefore chit chaya is reflected consciousness. So ahankara has got a very intimate relation, tadatmyam, with RC, chit chaya, and deha with body, and sakshi vihi with the OC. So where do you find all this? You find this ahankarasya tadatam chit chaya deha sakshi vihi. That is the first line. So this is the explanation of the first line. The author is saying that the ahankara is closely associated, intimately associated with the reflected consciousness, with the physical body, and with the OC, sakshi vihi. So let's take the first one. Basically, the mind and the reflected consciousness. So he says, what does he say? He says, sahajam. It is natural. Sahajam means that which is natural. And therefore, the relation between the mind and the reflected consciousness is natural. It's the way they are constructed. And therefore, since it is natural, it is very difficult to separate them. Separate the reflected consciousness from the ahankara. Therefore, the mind is always connected with Chidabhasa, with the RC. And hence, it is easy to confuse. It's easy to have a confusion as to mind is naturally sentient or has got borrowed sentience. This is still a matter of debate in a lot of places, whether mind has got natural consciousness or does it borrow consciousness from RC, the Chidabhasa. Right? Now, when the mind rests in Sushupti, in your Sushupti Avastha, which is the Avastha where the body, both the bodies are not functional, because in the Jagrata Avastha, all three bodies are functional. In Swapna Avastha, physical body is not functional. And in Sushupti Avastha, subtle body and the physical body are not functional. So the mind is supposed to be resting there. Mind is dormant, right? And therefore, because the mind is dormant, sahajam, what is naturally associated with the mind is also dormant. And since mind and Chidabhasa cannot be separated, when the mind becomes dormant, the Chidabhasa also becomes dormant. this so-called consciousness also becomes dormant. Remember that even during Pralayam, after the destruction of the world, the mind exists together with Chidabhasa in the potential form. The Sukshma Shariram exists with RC in potential form. Only during Videha Mukti, when the Sukshma Shariram is destroyed, only at that time the Chidabhasa can be destroyed. Until then, even after this destruction of the world, even after Pralayam, this Chidabhasa is in dormant form because the mind is also dormant. And hence he says this relationship is sahajam, it is natural. That is between the mind, the ahankara, and chitchaya, chidavasa. What is the next one? The relation between the mind and the body. Ahankara is this, the very fact that the physical body, that this relationship is temporary. It has got a date of coming into being, which is the date of birth, and it's got a date of going out of being, dissociation, which is the date of death of the physical body. What causes this temporary relationship? Why does this relationship come into being? What is that which brings about the association and the disassociation of the ahankara with the body? That we have to see. And therefore he says, karmajam tadatmyam. Karma here is karmajam, born out of karma, tadatmyam. This identification, this intimate relationship is born out of karma, karmajam. So this karma is prarabdha karma. And when your prarabdha karma is very strong, then life is good for you, right? Very strong, beneficially strong, life is good for you. When it is destructively strong, life is terrible for you. And therefore, this tadatmyam comes out of this mind and the body relationship, comes out of prarabdha karma only. That's the second one. The first one we said, the mind and reflected consciousness, it's a natural one. It's difficult to separate that. The mind and body separates immediately after death of the physical body. And therefore, every new physical body gets a new association with the same subtle body. So the mind is the same, but the physical body changes. The changes are caused because of prarabdha karma. What is the third one? Ahankara and Sakshi, the mind and the OC. The author says, what does the author say in this particular thing? He says, Trividam Kramat. Okay. Now, in this case, what he says is that there really is no relationship at all. Is there a relationship possible between Sakshi and the mind? It cannot be, right? Because we know that mind belongs to the transactional order of reality, which we call Vyavaharika Satyam. Sakshi belongs to a different order of reality, a higher order of reality, which we call Satyam is a lower order of reality. Paramarthika Satyam is a higher order of reality. And there is no connection possible between two orders of reality. It's like saying that the person in a dream, can he get married to the girl in the Jagrada Avastha? No. Between Swapna Avastha and Jagrada Avastha, there can be no connection at all because both are different levels of reality. But because of ignorance, what happens? We connect Sakshi with our mind. All the time, I am worried about the mind. I am happy, I am disturbed. But this connection is due to a delusion. That there really is no mind for me, and therefore the state of what I do not have, how can that disturb me? Why does it disturb me? Because I have bonded with the mind. Why this bonding? It's out of delusion. And therefore he says, Bhranti Janyam Chatrividham. Krama. Trividham. Threefold connection born out of Bhranti. Bhranti Janyam Trividham. Threefold connection born out of delusion, born out of error. Kramat. Kramat means respectively. What does Kramat refer to? The Kramat refers to the sequence in which this Tridam, the three things are to be studied. And we have just done that. Mind and body is Karmajam. Mind and Sakshi is Bhrantijam. Okay. So this is a very heavy verse. So I'll stop here. And you can ask any questions you want to. As I said, this is advanced Vedanta. So those who are new to it will really need to study. And been doing Vedanta for 2, 3, 4 years. For them also, it's not too easy, but they are able to get the gist. Okay. So any questions?
When we say, yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
Okay. Would you mind re-explaining the two parts of the mind? That the matter part, the thought part.
Yeah. So the mind is said to consist of two parts. One is the matter part, which is basically it's the material part because the subtle body is basically matter only. Subtle body is
So you're talking
anatma.
about subtle matter, right? Obviously,
Subtle
not physical matter.
No, subtle matter. The subtle body it is. The mind is subtle body, so it is subtle matter. And therefore, they divide the mind into two pieces: the subtle matter and the thoughts which take place in the mind. So, the subtle matter does not move away from the body. The subtle body is in the physical body, and therefore, subtle matter remains in the physical body. But the vritti part of it, the thoughts part of it, the thoughts flow out, they envelop the object which you are studying. And that is how you come to know, because there's a connection between the mind and the vritti and the thought. When this thought envelops the object which you are scrutinizing, that is how you get to know about the nature of that object. That is what it means.
Why do they use this theory? I mean, the conventional scientific theory is that sensations are coming to us and the mind is molded into the sensations, by the sensations. Why would they want to consider that the mind or thoughts go out? Which doesn't make scientific sense.
Yeah, but this is one of the theories of Vedanta. It can be proved or disproved. That is the usual, way of explaining that you cannot disprove it happens, you cannot prove it happens. But this is what Vedanta says.
And
because the you can consider this moving out as basically sense perception. If you look at it at the vritti thoughts moving out, yeah, please go ahead.
But aren't thoughts themselves subtle matter anyway?
All thoughts subtle matter anyway, yes.
So not of a different nature of the mind than the mind itself.
Not a different nature of mind. It is like the lake and the wave. If you consider the matter part of the mind as the lake, then the thoughts are the waves.
Okay.
Not different, but different in form and in function.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
the
please.
concept of reflected consciousness is not very clear to me. Does it correspond to the Jivatma?
Yes, but it's like if the Paramatma is, or the original consciousness is, let us say, your face, okay? Or better make it the sun. It is the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a mirror, or maybe there are 10 mirrors. One mirror is large, mirror is small and one mirror is dirty and one mirror is one of those, mirrors which give distorted images. And therefore, you have as many mirrors as you have suns inside those mirrors.
Yeah, I
So
get it.
that sun is the reflect. It is not an independent entity because it depends upon the mirror for existence.
Yeah, so does that mean that the original consciousness corresponds to the Atman or the Paramatma,
Yes.
and the reflected
Yes.
conscience is the Jivatma? That's correct?
Correct. And that is why you have multiple Jivatmas.
Yes.
But we say everything is only one because the reflected sunlight is nothing but the original sunlight.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Viji, you said there are 3 stages of when you are like physical body,
Yeah.
where mind and physical body is connected. Then there is a sleep avastha, where the physical body is at rest and the mind and reflected consciousness is
No,
in
mind and we are talking about 3 bodies.
yeah,
When you talk about the 3 avasthas, this is actually Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, which means the
Sushupti, yes.
waking state, the sleeping state, and the deep sleep state, the dreamless deep state. Okay.
Mm.
So you are saying that in the waking state, all 3 bodies are functional
Yes.
because you're thinking also and you're walking also. In the sleeping state, the dream state, the physical body is at rest. It's not functional, but your mind is functional. That is why you have dreams. And therefore, 2 are functional. And during deep sleep, where you have no experience at all, then therefore the mind is not available, because if the mind was available, it would record that you are having no experience, but that you are able to know only when you come out of Sushupti Avastha, that I had no experience. And therefore the mind is said to be dormant in that stage. So mind is basically Sukshma Shariram. So we say Sukshma Shariram is dormant in Sushupti Avastha. It also resolves into the causal body.
But at that time, there's no sense of the reflected consciousness and the sakshi. You're not at all conscious. So
Reflected consciousness is not available. The mind has relapsed, right? The mind has resolved into the causal body. And we said there is a close connection between reflected consciousness and the mind. So unless the mind is available, the RC won't be available. It's as simple as that. If you take away the mirror, the sunlight won't be, the reflected sunlight is no longer there.
yes.
So your mind is the reflecting mirror, and the combined entity is the reflected consciousness. The
So
RC is not different from OC, because without the OC there can be no RC.
yes. So, but when you say that there are many types of mirrors, like muddy mirror, clear mirror, big mirror, small mirror, that means every jivatma, like all of us, have different kind of experience of reflected consciousness.
No. Different.
No.
They look different. One is smart, one is dumb, all those things. All the differences that occur in the various living beings are only because of difference of the body, of the reflecting mirror. Atma is the same. The difference between you and let us say the cat is because the cat is a different reflecting surface. Your body is a different reflecting surface. It's a finer surface.
Kind
The
of
cat's is
mind.
not so fine. Yeah.
So the reflected consciousness which I experience and the reflected consciousness cat experience will be different, but the actual the consciousness is the same.
Is the same, which is what we say you are. We say you are the Atma. What you experience is the reflection. You don't experience yourself.
So my
So you are experiencing your RC.
yes, but I want to understand, like, what about my sister or someone who's uh, Atman is the same. We are all Atman and we are all infinite beings. but my understanding of reflected consciousness and my sister's or someone else's another human being's understanding of reflected consciousness will be same or different.
No, it cannot. Understanding takes place in your mind. So unless you have studied parampara, understanding is going to be different. Somebody will not talk. Some people will not talk about these concepts at all. If you're a non-Vedantic school, this will not be available to you. In a yoga darshanam, this is not available.
So
So
then
your understanding has nothing to do with the reality.
yes, but it has something to do with the mind. Your mind has to be sharp enough to get
Every understanding takes, yes, the mind has to be sharp enough to be able to dissect this, understand it, and find it useful.
Yes, and if there are human beings, there must be human beings who have reached that kind of similar state of consciousness. Will they be able to connect? Like, the mirror is
No, I don't know
similar.
what you mean. See, there is no question of connecting with something. What are you connecting with? Does the sun connect with the reflected sunlight?
There is a connection,
There is no
but
connection at all. The connection is
I'm
between the
not
mirror
talking
and the
about
reflected sunlight.
connection between the consciousness and the reflected consciousness. I'm talking about the connection between different reflected consciousness of different
How can it
jivatmas.
be?
So there won't be any kind of connection because they are all individual beings.
From the point of view of scripture, the only thing that connects all jivatmas is that they are all Paramatma only. Like all the reflected sunlight is basically connected because of the original sunlight only. That is the only connection. There is no other connection.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Raviji.
Okay. Right, guys. No other questions, then we can pack for the day.
So one more question.
Yeah.
Sahajam Karmajam Bhranti, you mentioned this intimate relationship is born out of prarabdha karma. What was the relevance of this sentence at this point? This intimate relationship.
I'm talking, this is not Sahajam, okay? This is regarding the mind-body relationship.
You said
So
the mind, it's natural.
Sahajam is between the Chidabhasa and the mind, RC and the mind. The mind-body is Karmajam Tadatmya, born out of Prarabdha Karma, not the mind RC. Mind RC is natural. Mind-body is born out of Karmajam, Prarabdha Karma. And the mind and the Sakshi, there really is no connection at all. Because the mind is only the reflecting mirror.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So it's a difficult verse, I know, but then I suggest you, once more go over it, and then we can discuss it either in the next class or you can ask on the group itself. Okay?
Om Raviji, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So we say that mind is natural connection because as my understanding to clarify because the mind will not be sentient because without the RC, that means we say it is natural connection.
Without, you are talking about a connection between the mirror and the RC and the reflection.
Mind and RC.
So,
yeah.
Mirror and reflection, what is the connection? It is natural because it's a mirror.
Natural.
That's why there is RC.
Okay.
That is what is natural. Because it's a mirror, there will be RC.
Okay.
You can't have the RC without the mirror.
Okay.
But yet they are different. You should confuse them to be the same.
Okay.
The connection is there. It's a Sahajam connection.
Okay.
Okay, I need to go because I got a satsang coming. I'm sorry. I really have to go. And 2 minutes have to be in the hall. So.
Thank you, Raviji.
Thank you.
Purnamidam Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Om Namah
Thank you,
Shivaya.
everybody. Om Namah Shivaya.